What is up, my fellow Kryptonians? Welcome back to another breakdown, recap, and review of Superman and Lois. Today, we are talking about episode 10, titled, I believe, Oh Mother, Where Art Thou? And we are starting right where we left off at the end of last episode, which excited so many fans because this show has done very interesting things to existing characters like Morgan Edge by subverting, I would say, quite a lot of people's expectations, in some ways more than others. But I feel like this episode capitalized upon that even further. And while also, as I like to say, treading innovative ground on story. For example, I'm pretty sure I'm correct, through creating a new character in terms of Kal-El's brother. All while, of course, like chucking in several different inspirations from Superman lore to kind of give to Morgan Edge and this narrative to bring about the resurrection of Kryptonians. Now, this episode felt a little bit like a finale in a way, even though the problem, or the threat, shall I say, of Morgan Edge is very far from over. And with that final little tease at the end of the episode, I really do have an idea of what that final shot of those rocks could be, and stay tuned for that. And other than that, guys, I'm not going to ramble at the beginning here, other than saying, like this video if you do go ahead to enjoy it. I really appreciate you guys. I love seeing the discussion and the interaction every week. And other than that, thank you to my channel members and patrons who are appearing on screen. You guys help me do what I do. And if you want to help out support the channel like these guys are, then the links are at the top pinned comment of the comment section. So, as I said, where we left off, I love the ending of the last episode and the beginning of this. It's very cinematic. Obviously, this show is quite cinematic than most other CW shows as it is, but it was just really cool seeing our Tyler Hoechlin Superman face off against this, I would say, pretty badass designed Morgan Edge, who in this moment revealed Superman that he is indeed his brother, and that's when he reveals his name to be Tal-Rho, which is, I was thinking, have I heard of Tal-Rho before? Like, have I? And it is a new creation, which, as I said, you can sprinkle in several different source material inspirations there, but what I applaud this show for doing is sometimes it's hit and miss when you attempt to do this. For example, Morgan Edge is an existing character already, then some people were theorizing that it's just a Kryptonian mind that was put into him, and that was what was going on. But no, like, as I said in my last week's episode review, he arrived here on Earth like Kal-El did from a young age, and we'll get into those flashbacks because they said something about the British, which... Would I really shoot someone? We'll get to that. Anyway, Morgan Edge goes on to detail that he is Tal-Rho, the son of Zeta-Rho and Lara Lor-Van. And that's when Clark is like, wait, that's not possible because that's my mum you're talking about right there. At first, this seems quite confusing, I guess, to maybe some audience members, but also Clark, because as the story goes, you know, Clark was the first natural-born Kryptonian birth, if you will, in a long time, and to his knowledge and super traditionalist canon, Clark's parents were his parents, and that was how it went. Krypton was in imminent danger of exploding. He got sent off, but what the writers of Superman and Lois decided to do is that she had a previous relationship, which is something that really pertains and rings true to Krypton society in how they are matched with other Kryptonians, and that is the case with Clark's mother. He goes on to give more context of how it was when she first warned Krypton was dying, and that was the very reason that his father, Zeta-Rho, sent him here. So even though I've got some comments about Zeta-Rho and what we might see from him later on, at least he kind of believed in his ex-girlfriend, you could say. He believed in her research enough about Krypton dying to send his son, Morgan Edge, or in this case, Tal-Rho, to Earth before Clark technically got there to start the new age Krypton, kind of Man of Steel Zod vibes, if you know what I mean, in terms of terraforming the planet, but in this case bringing Kryptonians back for implanting them into natives of Smallville's minds. You know how it goes, but it's quite an interesting kind of parallel to Man of Steel's plot with General Zod there. What I also loved about this is the stark contrast yet parallel of what we see from Morgan Edge's life, kind of growing up in a different area on the British countryside is where he was captured. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm British, I'm from the UK. But yeah, I really appreciate this because it's been explored in many different storylines. Oh, if Superman landed in Germany in a different time period, you know where that could go. This, that, and the other. So this kind of reflects a Kryptonian who landed. And we hear initially like a very kind of Martha Kent vibe, like almost like a good, delightful surprise. Like, oh, husband, it's a boy. But then he's like, don't move. And then we see those two humans, and one of them, the husband, I think, shoots the younger Morgan Edge as he was basking in the sun, obviously soaking in the sun's radiation. It shows how his life could have gone a very different way. It's quite tragic if you think about it, and it's just, as I said, just like how Clark's life could have gone a very different way if it wasn't for Jonathan and Martha Kent. So obviously this gives Morgan Edge, or Tal-Rho shall I say, but I'm just going to stick to Morgan Edge, it's kind of easier, the mindset of Earth and why they don't need the consideration that Clark has for them. And even tries to bait him by saying and teasing that they can be with their mother again, which is and one thing I was paying attention to here, and you guys probably might realize this if you've been watching my reviews, is I've been dying to know what that black-suited Superman on John Henry Irons' Earth was all about. Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? And sure, there were reasons, or we might not have had a family, but I always contrasted that with saying, oh, but he still went off to save people before Morgan Edge and the Kryptonians, you know, got involved on that Earth. Like, what was the thing that made him snap? And I'm glad this got into that in this episode because it's slightly more believable now, or should I say a lot more with the context we got later on. One thing I loved most about this is that I think Tyler Hoechlin embodies a really good Clark Kent and a really good Superman, especially now the suit is much better and he looks so much better as Superman in this series compared to, despite me advocating for him before in the Arrowverse. These lines he was giving were so Superman. And there were other moments in the episode, I'm even talking way much later in the episode, where he went to meet Morgan Edge again, and the acting was just impeccable in my opinion. It was almost cliche Superman material, so it's like almost offering it up on a platter, like to be completely transparent. Like, if you want to give Superman some Superman lines in the show, the Morgan Edge saying, why do you love them? There must be a reason. Did they take you in when they first arrived? And then for Superman to respond to that, it was perfect. It was kind of easy, but I'm still very giddy about it because it shows that our Superman, like our Tyler Hoechlin Superman, it just embodied the character, but as I always like to say, personified the character with his love of humanity and his unwavering faith and opposition to what Morgan Edge is doing here, despite offering his own reasons. For example, the later meeting, the second meeting, shall I say, that is similar to the first one where they're out in the Ready Rock kind of area. He goes on to emphasize about how they did no such thing for him. He landed in the British countryside where he was not greeted, he was hunted, he was trapped, caught, and I was thinking like, but come on, like, would people really like shoot a kid like that? Maybe they would, but I don't know. Like, maybe I'm just biased because I'm British and I wouldn't like to think that a little boy running away, I'd be like, pew, like, poor kid. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to include this beginning scene with the scene much later, obviously they're very similar. I've had very similar lines of personifying the characteristics of Superman, and yeah, I felt like the acting was really good. And also Morgan Edge, like, sometimes in moments like this when you're trying to act angry and it's quite hard, obviously they're actors, that's their job, but he needs to get across that he wants to bring his planet back. He's a Kryptonian, and he's been posing as this other character who we believe to be Morgan Edge this whole time. So I felt the anger and the genuine frustration at how he wanted his brother to help him. And he's a character who has quite a bit of depth to him. He's not just villain for villain's sake. He thinks he's doing the right thing, and his view of humanity has been tainted with understandable context. Obviously, not condonable context, but you get what I'm trying to say. So all in all, fantastic performances. After the beginning moments in the episode, we picked up with the Cushing household, with Carl kind of zoning out into the distance or the horizon, or whatever you want to say him there. Obviously dealing with the fact that Kyle could basically get into his Kryptonian mode at any point. But also there was a bit of backstory being explained, which, yet again, without repeating myself too much from previous videos, I'm a big fan of the Cushing storyline. I really like Carl's character. He's a very good human perspective from the show. And obviously Clark arrives home to the Kent farm and with his head, you know, held down, and he has to debrief the family now. You know, you can't forget that it's not just debriefing Lois. The boys are very much so involved in this as well. And imagine coming home to say, yeah, I've got a brother. yeah, this is where they start to bring up, like, but why would you join him? And as I said, I was eagle-eyed in these moments because it's one of the answers I've been waiting to hear. This wasn't quite the scene for the answer. This kind of happened a little bit later between Jonathan and Jordan, but Jonathan did mention, why did he think you would join him? And then Clark replies, because he could bring my Kryptonian mother back and our people, which, you know, really sits with Jonathan because there's still a bit of low-key fear because on another Earth, well, if that still happened, does that mean it could kind of still happen here? I mean, imagine going your whole life without thinking you're the only person, and then you're offered to be with your people. Not only that, see your mum again. That was a very interesting scene later on that I'm just going to tie here now when Lois gets involved saying, but the difference is our Clark has a family. So a lot of you who were saying that were kind of right. And the reason why I didn't want to kind of accept that straight away is because, well, even if he didn't have Lois, because Lois was with John Henry Irons on that Earth, the thing that tripped me up there is the fact that he was still saving people. So it kind of confused me that if Superman on this other Earth with the black suit there was lots of reports, articles still being written about him saving people, he clearly had a love for humanity still. So I don't know, I still find a teeny bit of a, I don't know if I want to call it a gripe because I don't know if it qualifies as that, but I get that on that Earth, he was obviously given the chance to be with his family, his mother again. But we still can't forget that that Superman with the black suit still had a love for humanity. So to just turn on them and destroy them, it does still, if I'm being fully honest with you guys, seem a little bit far-fetched. I argue he still had a love for humanity, which is very important because there were documented times he saved people on that Earth. So yeah, I get the Kryptonians came back with his brother announcing himself on that other Earth as well. I feel like it's a massive leap to heat vision the crap out of cities and murder people, even if given the chance to bring your mother back. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because one thing we can assume on the other planet as well is, despite not having Lois, he was still raised by Martha and Jonathan Kent. So I don't know if that's so much criticism, it's just more like, I just feel like maybe there should have been a teeny bit more motivation on the other Earth. But yeah, maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I still feel like my criticisms stand just a little bit there, because I think that is it now. Like, the black-suited Superman who saved people on John Henry Irons' Earth was raised by the Kents, saved humanity, clearly loved them if he wanted to save them. Same thing happened, got revealed that Morgan is his brother, got revealed that his mother's mind can be put into people, and was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to laser everybody. That's kind of how it happened. So I just feel like there should have been just a little bit more. I also really was excited when Clark went to the fortress because Lois was encouraging him to investigate this even further because they've got the whole DOD on their front lawn, which is fair enough. And I should have seen this coming. Of course you would go to the fortress and ask Jor-El. And the acting here, once again from Tyler, was very good. Like, some people said that he has wooden, blunt acting, and I feel like scenes like we got in last episode where he felt so responsible. Was it last episode? Yeah, where he felt really responsible for giving that pain onto Jordan. It was great. And in this episode, the frustration when Jor-El said there wasn't the need. And he was like, the need for me to know that I've had a brother here my entire life. There wasn't the need. I agree. Like, gee, there's so many things wrong with that. I mean, even just in of itself to know that he isn't alone. That's a huge kind of baseline story beat to tackle with Superman, and poor guy didn't even know it. Maybe he could have helped out if he knew earlier that he had a brother. He could have seeked him out before. I mean, to be fair, his mind was probably made up when he was a teenager in captivity, but I still felt really bad for Clark in that moment. We get further explanation from Jor-El saying that this technology and restoring Krypton was never technically his mother's intent, at least not the way Zeta Rho wished to enact it. Lara's invention was a means of preservation to save our people by retaining and transferring their minds, just as his own mind has been retained here. This is when it's revealed that, well, since it's his mother's invention, she developed this technology, so he can't really understand it. And from this moment, it was very predictable. Not that predictability is always a bad thing at all. I knew they were basically going to bring out the mother's mind and put it into someone. I didn't see Lana at all. I just thought they were going to bring her back somehow. And I even theorized as the episode was unfolding, oh, maybe Jor-El was going to be in the fortress alongside Lara from here on out. And that would be kind of cool. You could always go visit your parents, both of them, in the fortress. But it didn't turn out that way. But they should have maybe tried to do it that way. Put it in another crystal, maybe. Throughout the episode, Lois arrived at Lana's house, and that's when, lo and behold, Kyle's Kryptonian mind part or host activated, and he starts choking both Lana and Lois. And luckily she had a Kryptonian rock in her hand and punched him, which was a really badass Lois moment. Like, this is what I love about the character. She is technically so vulnerable to be snapped like a twig in terms of the strength of a Kryptonian, but she still has the courage to go in. I'm surprised General Lane let her do that, but knowing Lois, she insisted. So she walked in, smacked him in the face when that happened, and luckily it worked out. I also love that line from Lana. There's a couple really cool Lana moments in this episode that I felt as a Smallville fan, even though it's not the same Lana, it still touched home for me. Obviously growing up with that being, I think, one of, if not the first superhero show I watched as it was airing on TV. So Lana said, it's been so long since anything strange happened in this town. I mean, I thought we were done with this kind of stuff. And it just made me feel like, well, yeah, throwback to Clark when he was in town. That's the time she was referring to. And when he disappeared, well, yeah, that's when she thought she was done with that stuff. And obviously she isn't putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Lana gets way more in on the fold about the Smallville natives and how they grew up around XK and how all of that comes together with the plan. So she's fully in on it now, especially as Kyle is very much being so held in a Kryptonian or like a kryptonite kind of cell and tortured kind of by General Lane. We had some interesting moments from Sarah and the boys this episode. Not as much involvement from them, but I still really, once again, I think Jonathan's still one of my favorite characters. He's like he's very beyond his years. I like the lines where it's like, I will never apologize for not telling for telling the truth, basically, but that doesn't mean I wish we weren't not in this kind of position. Things like that, like when he just came out telling Sarah about everything. One thing I will say is this felt very quick. It's like, okay, I thought they were gonna maybe, I don't know, slowly descend her into the knowledge, but it was straight up like bang, like all of the story, and then she was like, whoa, 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 whoa. It felt like it was being a little bit rushed along to like get her up to speed with everything else going on. This is what I mean. It felt like almost this was the finale going on, just with the way this was unfolding in this episode. But regardless, I still really like this because obviously this means Sarah's in the loop. She thinks she understands a lot of things now with how that makes sense with what's going on with Jordan and what's happened with Jordan, but I was thinking, you have no idea. But I am very grateful that she's still a lot more in the loop now, because now at least Jordan has a bit more of an excuse for DOD-esque things happening in the future if he has to dip during another special connection scene between both of them, because I quite like Jordan and Sarah's dynamic on screen. In other news, they found the physician from Morgan Edge who has been working on this with him, so they found the location of the Eradicator in him, and they took him. They obviously want to reverse what this machine has been doing, but Donovan is just like, I barely understand this, I barely understand it, so how am I supposed to reverse it? And that's when, of course, they came up with the idea that I think we all saw coming, that they were somehow going to get Clark's mother back into someone, but I just didn't see Lana being the volunteer. Which reminds me though, dialing back just a couple of seconds, this is when Lana first sees Superman, like in real life, and they did a very deliberate little scene here, slow-mo of the cape kind of flashing majestically in the wind, flapping, not flashing. It was sweet because yet again, it's little homages to the once has-been relationship of Lana and Clark, and the kind of bittersweet of like they've been there before, but she's also never gonna know, I guess, kind of feeling. And I like how they play on that. It's a nice romanticized theme that's being kept up in present day, even though I've explored this story in a whole show dedicated to it on Smallville many years ago, even though it's different continuities, but you can imagine a lot of the same things playing out. So yeah, basically Lana volunteers because she feels some responsibility for obviously running the executive program thing, and this is her chance to help out. The pacing did feel like a bit fast in this moment. Now, I don't want to seem like I'm not happy either way. I love the pacing on this show, but I just felt like transparently in this moment, things were going very fast to get to that moment in the plot where the Eradicator was getting destroyed. But still, I love the fact that we got Clark's mother, actual Kryptonian mother, implanted into Lana, which gave us some scenes of this Superman meeting his mother for the first time, which was really nice. Like, it's kind of hard to obviously get purely sucked into it when it's obviously being portrayed through a character we already know on the show like Lana. But I feel like that's more to the credit of the actors, because I still feel like it was good, much better than what I thought it was going to be. Because, you know, when you have to pretend to be another character who's wielding the mind of Superman's mother, it might not deliver as well as what the writing on paper makes the scene to be a great scene, if that makes sense. But no, I will give him credit. It was nice. So many crazy things actually happened if you think about it. I mean, not only is realized that he's got a blood relative brother, but now he's getting to speak to his mother. All of of this is happening in one episode. That's pretty crazy. They also squeezed in another very quick scene of which I really appreciated between Jonathan. Well, initially they were trying to take Sarah to see her dad, and he was squaring up to a soldier. I really love Jonathan, but that got General Lane to arrive, and I really like the General Lane and Jonathan scenes because he just calls him out on this shit. And General Lane's a very interesting character, like I've rambled on about before. There's two sides to him which you can completely understand. You know, the military side and understandable actions he feels like he has to take, but then there's the humanity kind of side, family side, where it's like, yeah, I get your orders and what you feel like you need to do, but you kind of need to see it from our side. So we had Jonathan in this moment saying, you keep acting like you're doing the right thing, and it keeps proving to be the exact opposite. Come on, can't you just act like a real person for once and not a soldier? And then that's when General Lane was like, well, shit, just nodded at the soldier, let him through. And it was just, wasn't like a monumental moment, but it was quite a big moment, I would say, because we had another similar scene like this on the porch of the Kent farm where he was listening to his grandson call him out. And yet again here, it's like, I think if you hear it enough, especially from, as we know, General Lane deeply cares about his daughter, but also his grandkids very much so, I think it really hit home in that scene. Now, I just want to put this out there, not actually suggesting it as a mega serious theory, but remember when the Kryptonian in Kyle said, first thing I'm going to do when I get out of here to Jonathan is kill you or whatever. Now, obviously, he became free of it, like a lot of people did, but I don't know why. I feel like they wouldn't have teased that scene unless like there was going to be another little revenge attempt from him to Jonathan. So do you think every mind is gone? Every single last one? It was also teased from Morgan Edge at the end with Leslie Law saying, is this just us? He was like, for now. So maybe not every single mind, it didn't work as well as they thought. Maybe it like completely eradicated 85% of the Kryptonian minds who were inhabiting all of those people who entered the program, but that still leaves 15% who might still have some residual mind inhabitants and host dominance in people such as Kyle, maybe. I could just almost predict like a... And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if Kyle was like a tragic story who it just comes out and they have to just kill him or something in another attempt because Superman had to do it because otherwise Jonathan was going to die. Just some random theory dishing out there. Yet again, don't take that one too seriously. I don't even think it's necessarily going to happen, but yeah, just be aware that maybe not every mind is gone as we thought, but at least most of them have been wiped out. If not, as I said, all of them. And it's just Leslie Lauren, Morgan Edge again. But we'll revisit that with that ending scene in just a minute. So we got a cool little scene between Superman and Lana, which, my God, do you have to suspend your disbelief in these scenes? Because this is like a guy's, you know, I'm not even going to talk about this because obviously it's just a Superman thing that we all know about. But my God, like, would you not? Anyway, moving on. She goes off to be Clark's mum. It's almost just hilarious hearing myself say that out loud. We get a whole bunch more context, which, you know, just stuff that we've more or less already spoken about. She goes through with Clark about the other family and how they were genetically matched, and that's how unions were formed for thousands of years on Krypton. She's very happy that Clark, you know, grew up, and she's just very happy that he has everything that she would have hoped that he would have had on Earth. And we got a nice scene with Lois and her later on. I thought it would be like, almost like, am I good enough for you and your son for you, if that makes it? But no, it was actually a lot more wholesome. Towards the very end of the episode now, they basically figure out that it can be done to liberate everyone of the Kryptonian invaded minds in them, but they would need something that would rival the power of the sun, which is pretty crazy, but Clark has a way to do that, and that is to completely deplete his energy. Plus, it seemed that conveniently all the other Kryptonians had their heat vision locked onto the Eradicator at the same time. I really like this bit because when the Kryptonians raised up, when Jordan and Jonathan and Sarah just like burst out the diner and everyone was just flying off, that was like a swarm of flies, and they were all loading up their heat vision. I was like, damn, this is actually pretty intimidating. Like, imagine that many Kryptonians flying after you. Even Superman would have way more than enough trouble on his hands to deal with that. And this is where we got that awesome action sequence where Superman gets the Eradicator, he flies up, they're right behind him, he's getting lasered the crap out of, and Edge realizes, calls them to stop, but it's a bit too late, and Superman releases all of his energy, this massive ripple wave comes out. Yeah, again, in this moment, I couldn't stop feeling like this feels like a finale. Like, what? Now, it seems that people are liberated of their hosts, but I'm still skeptical about that. Superman just barely made it to the fortress with the Eradicator, and the music as he crawls through the snow was just, what more can I say than epic? I know that word's overused but by this point, but it just was. And here we are right at the end of the episode where Edge arrives to Leslie Law. She says, just them, and he's like, for now. He says, all is not lost when he looks at those bridge, and it seems like there's maybe a little bit of an opening. Now, hear me out. I have no idea if anyone has theorized this. To be honest, it wouldn't remotely surprise me because it's the first thing that came to my head. What if that rock formation is his fortress of solitude, or his fortress of diabolical planning in terms of Morgan Edge? Because I have a theory now that since Superman has the fortress of solitude, he's been here on Earth for that long. Well, what did Morgan Edge arrive in? His own little pod. His own little freaking crystal, I'm guessing. So maybe, since we've been teased so much with how he was sent here with a mission for his father, because his father believed in what his ex-wife or girlfriend used to say about Krypton dying, so he sent his son here first, as I detailed at the beginning of this breakdown. But to have that conviction stay with you throughout your whole life, I know he was held captive and stuff, but I like to think that maybe he did actually communicate with Zeta Rho. And I think that is where he could have been heading with Leslie La when he says all is not lost. Well, they were heading into like some random little entrance in some kind of rock formation. So yeah, I think you guys get the idea. I think he's going to communicate with Zeta Rho, his dad. Maybe he has a backup plan. That's why he says all is not lost. I could be completely wrong about that, but I think that's quite interesting to explore if I do say so myself. If they hadn't thought of that, take my idea from me. I'm sure you have thought about it, and I'm sure it could be in the next episode, but seriously, I want to see Morgan Edge's little fortress, and why wouldn't he have one? I would love to know your thoughts on that. It does make sense to me with the pod that he arrived in as well, and I guess he has been quite educated still from maybe a similar Jor-El type projection-like hologram of Zeta Rho, Morgan Edge's father, or should I say Tal-Rho's father. Tal-Rho, son of Zeta Rho. Sorry, it gets freaking messed up in my mind. But that's the episode, guys. I love where this is going. Even though this felt like a finale, it's still very much so not over. You literally have Morgan Edge there, still fully powered up, brother of Kal-El, quite literally, with the ambitions of General Zod from Man of Steel. That's pretty nuts to deal with. And all is not lost. So he has another little thing up his sleeve, or should I say fortress. So I am more engaged than ever with this plot. I'm loving it. Obviously, I think we're going to get John Henry Irons in for a bit of backup because it seems that he's really been in the background. And to be honest, actually, come to think about it with retrospect now, it's kind of surprising that they didn't include him in this episode. You would have thought he would want to be there with other Kryptonians flying throughout the air like that, or he would have been around with his goggles out, just kind of in his van, just waiting for it to happen, knowing that this Earth could get destroyed. I know his main ambition was to stop Clark or Superman going evil, but even though he kind of for now believes that he won't, that doesn't mean that he's not still scared that this Kryptonian thing would be happening, and it did. So maybe that's a bit of an oversight, actually. You know, just some constructive criticism, Ned. What do you think? But I still expect to see him back. But overall, you know, mega thumbs up on this episode still. Leave me your thoughts, as always, down in the comments below. If you got to this point of the video, please like it. It really does help out. And also, as always, there's going to be a hashtag to prove that you got this far. So with whatever comment you want to leave down in the comments below, hashtag Morgan Edge trimming a British hedge. I know. But I like to think if he landed in the British countryside, maybe he would have done that when he was like 18, maybe, you know, for a bit of pocket money. I don't know. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, links are in the top pinned comment if you want to follow me on Twitter, my Discord server, and other places to support me. But as always, I guess I'll be seeing you fellow Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.